And so eventually I landed a job in Aspen, Colorado. It's interesting when in another restaurant you talk, because only a personal doctor knows your heart risk, right? It's never just heart disease.
Welcome to Sessions from the Edge. This is where we sit with people whose lives have been reshaped by adversity, not to fix what's broken, but to understand what's being rebuilt. You might be a patient or a carer, a functional health professional, or someone who's indirectly impacted. But as far as the global statistics go, you're over 40, you're either a patient or a carer, and that's about it. 50% of the world, the adult world, has a chronic condition. Today's conversation sits right at the intersection of food, heart disease, and human agency. My guest today is Chef Martin Oswald. He's Austrian-born with a classic European training. He has a career built as a high-end kitchens, moving into ingredient-driven whole food cooking. He's a former executive chef in some of Colorado's best restaurants, and he's owned a few himself as well, and then decided it was time to come back. He also likes to have flavour in food now that he focuses on culinary medicine, which is music to my ears, I can tell you. One of the reasons Martin's here is because he spent years cooking inside heart health and lifestyle medicine, working alongside a number of expert physicians as an advocate for culinary medicine. In fact, his title now is a Master of Culinary Medicine. But that's not why he's here. He's here because he's had first-hand experience with the impact of food as medicine on himself initially, but also his family. And we'll talk deeply, deeply about his family shortly. So let's jump right in. Chef Martin Oswald, thank you for joining me.
Hello. Thank you for the invitation. I very much appreciate it, especially since we have so many of the same stories to tell.
Mm.
I think it will be a very fascinating topic today.
It will be, and you're in Austria this morning your time, and I'm here in Australia evening time. So I just love the modern world that we can just have these chats using this tech, so that's great.
So I was 43 years in America, and
Yep.
in America, oftentimes Austria and Australia is the same, that gets mixed up a lot.
I was going to say, we get exactly the same comments when we're traveling. People say to me, Americans, I talk to them, I say, and they go, where are you from? And I go, well, I'm from Australia. Oh, Austria. Are you near Vienna or Salzburg? And then
You
the
listen
other
to
question.
Mozart, you listen to Strauss.
Yeah. Well, I do, but I'm not Austrian. But anyway, they'll ask me if I speak English, and hang on, I'm talking to them in English. But anyway, that sort of goes over the top. So, yes, I get that all the time, and it's interesting that you get it on the other side of the fence too. But anyway, before we get into your work, I'd love to start with you. And where did food first become a matter of your life and come into your life?
Well, we always start super early in Austria. We have the apprenticeship system here. So at 15, you make a decision. What you're going to do with your life? You're going to be a chef. You're going to be this. You're going to be that. Or you keep on studying, right? But that happens with 15. It's a good system for a lot of people like myself, a little bit in between. And you're like, well, I would have loved to study at the time. My friend actually started in the restaurant world. I sort of got inspired with that idea of, I've always loved food. I grew up in the countryside. So I was always surrounded from fresh foods. Nobody talks seasonal because that's all you have, right? And my mother was a fantastic cook, is a fantastic cook she was in Switzerland. And in Switzerland, especially like after the wartime, they were way ahead with their cooking techniques and everything. And so I got to know all these fantastic foods, Swiss influence, because the Swiss influence from Italy, from France, they got all that background. Um, and so she brought that home and we had 3-course meals every day. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm very spoiled. Uh,
And so as part of that was so you went through the training, then you went to the US, and were there any influences during those sort of times in the US where you came to think about whole food as something you were going to explore?
so actually came much earlier. That inspiration then was actually, I don't know, it's kind of strange looking back now. It's just a mile away from where I grew up.
Mm.
A health resort opened up. Okay. And the way that happened is the owner there had first a restaurant, opened a hotel. It didn't go well. And so he functioned over to a health resort based on Hildegard from Bingen. I don't know if you know who that is. It's a big name in industry right here in Europe. You look back 1,000 years to Hildegard from Bingen. Why?
Yeah.
Because she's the first one who did all the recordings on health food. You will read about parsley, all the herbs are recorded. She recorded like everything that was available at the time, also passed to her from previous generations, right? But to actually look at food as medicine, if you will, or the first humble attempts, you could pinpoint that to Hildegard from Bingen because she has the most extensive writing. And to this day, she's proven right in many ways, So you have all these herbs, right? That's the key impact here in Europe. But you'll also talk about fermented foods, but in different ways as we invention it, right?
Mm.
So,
Mm.
but she really went through that whole process and the hotel adapted that. So I was fortunate. It's kind of a funny story because I started first doing pastries, of course, but then I was always drawn towards the health food. And so in that, the person had 3 restaurants in Vienna, in Graz, and in Artberg, where I grew up. Okay.
Mm. Mm.
It was called Wilfinger and it's still Wilfinger Health Resorts. And the functioning of it was like Hildegard from Bingen in the hotel. So eventually got to work in a hotel. And all the restaurants also served the health food. So we had whole grain bread, ground our own flour. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah. 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 So even this is now we're going back to 82 here. Everything was whole grain based. And in those days, it was macrobiotic, a Austrian version, German version of macrobiotic, because in Japan it did it differently. But here's the thing. The one lesson of that Wilfinger Health Resort is that the founder ate and behaved the same way. He always exercised, not running, not marathons, just nice walks and small jogging in those days. 70s was jogging, right?
Mm. Mm.
Then he did a lot of like stress management. Even though he had all these outlets, he somehow internalized, was always a calm person. Okay. Even outward stress, but he would go, if he didn't like something, he would come, and not just me or any chef, like he had over 150 employees, but he would just say, well, let's try this again. Right? I mean, we are used in the kitchen, somebody screams at you and yells at you. But Wilfinger was just wrong. Wilfinger is like, oh, let's just try this again, Martin. This is, this is not quite right, And I'm like, I tried to internalize,
Yeah.
okay, a a better way to communicate if you needed something. And most people want to do good anyways, right? So I adopted this early on where I was, I have my own faults and I'm not I'm not the perfect, how should you say, teacher or anything, or in the kitchen, tempers rise a little bit when you're young. But then later on, I always thought back of Wilfing, how he managed stress.
Mm.
And Roman Wilfinger also ate every day a veggie platter like you won't believe. I just put one out. If you want to see it on my Substack, there is a platter for Dr. Chris Miller, this anti-inflammatory bowl I did for her. We had a veggie platter just like it. So that was like a whole roasted tomato, half roasted tomato. And then lots of colors. So like you'd have like a potato and whatever it was in season, cabbage and broccoli and Brussels sprouts. And, we chefs at the time, we thought like, well, that's a little boring, right? But he ate it almost religiously. I mean, it was really like, because we worked outside and I could watch what he was eating, right? I come to the salad buffet. Back then we had a salad buffet. They pour in the yogurt dressing. So it wasn't vegan, right? But it involved the yogurt dressing. And I gotta say, back then you don't understand it, but now I think he's 95 years old now.
Wow. Yeah.
That speaks for itself. Never had a heart attack, never had cancer, never had any of these diseases that we always talk about.
Yeah, well, I've had both, and but nowadays I religiously every morning have a mixture of veggies, but literally, like you're saying, a big plate of veggies, and because my naturopath wants me to um, get the omega-3s in, then I have some salmon or sardines, one of the two, so some as protein. But it starts with not salad so much. I'm not a huge salad fan. I mean, I eat plenty of salad, but I like to just lightly steam or just. I know you dry fry your stuff without any oil or anything, but I like a bit of olive oil in there just to give it a bit of a flavour. Can't help myself. Don't drink, don't smoke or any of those things, but I do like my olive oil.
And that's okay too, but we can go into depth about all these
Yeah.
issues maybe down the road a little bit.
So when I was doing my research for this session, I didn't find much of a health issue with you personally, although we are going to talk about somebody in your family a little shortly. But but I'm imagine with the sort of work that you did, leading the restaurants, executive chef, owning restaurants and things, there was a bit of stress involved there, and you would have probably not been eating right, not been exercising right, living hours that were strange, all that sort of thing. Tell me more about that, if you wouldn't mind.
So after the Wilfing experience, I wanted to do the same in America. I started in New York City. Then Wolfgang Puck, who is very familiar to a lot of people, very high-end chef in Spargos. He cooks for the Oscars and all that kind of stuff. I learned so much. This light California cuisine. Wolfgang Puck is the first one who took the cream sauces out of hot cuisine, if you will, and switched over to olive oil and healthier oils. And
Ah,
so this was in the 90s. And so then I followed, then my path changed, right? So I went into high-end cuisine now.
yeah.
So this happened in the 90s. And so eventually I landed a job in Aspen, Colorado, beautiful restaurant named Sissy G. So there we had a master sommelier, which I learned so much from. People won't believe it. I think people really underestimate proper tasting techniques.
Yeah.
And if anybody can explain it to you, it's these master sommeliers. Okay.
And
I
why's
know
that?
it's wine, but at the end, it's the same. For me as a chef, it's the same, right? I got to smell it, I got to taste it, I got to identify the flavor.
Right.
Okay, so you got to break it down into components. But so that was a real pleasure. And then we had all these high awards. It was nominated twice, top 10 chef in America. And then you fall into a rhythm of having to be better and better and better. Okay, you really have to prove yourself. And what happens automatically is you don't do what you want. You have to do what everybody else tells you they want. Okay.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, the husband died. I'm exaggerating, but it's caviar and foie gras, okay?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Butter sauces, and I cooked a pistachio schnitzel, which is, I mean, just crusted with pistachio all around with a butter sauce, a mustard butter sauce, and
Oh,
spätzle that had another oil and lemon oil in there. I mean, the food was so rich, right?
yeah. Heart
Why do
attacks
you
waiting
do
to
it?
happen.
Because everybody's addicted to them, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And in turn, then, of course, with all the stress, then we opened more and more restaurants. And with all the stress, I gained weight. I had, I think, 220, 230 pounds, something like that. So that's not obese, but it's getting up there. Okay.
yeah, yeah,
Certainly in Aspen, I was one of the stronger people at the time already. And so then I myself had to eventually, 2010 or so, I had symptoms of prediabetes. You can't focus anymore. You just sort of a little groggy always. You don't know why
yeah,
it is.
yeah,
And that eventually, I had just opened two restaurants, new restaurants. You got to design the kitchen and everything. I catered throughout for 2,000 people and one event for 7,000 people, always catering. And so that stress, I think, is the key thing for anybody to understand. If you have a lot of stress, it's almost impossible to lose your weight
Mhm. And why is that, do you think?
because your whole physiology changes into fight or flight. Your brain constantly needs something. You don't have time to think about food. You just, in my case, especially, and I'm almost everybody I know. Okay, anybody who
Yeah,
works 16 hours a day, like we worked a lot, like 12,
yeah,
14-hour days during the season, of course, right?
yeah,
And I was not thinking of, like, I ate a brownie and I ate whatever is in front of me just to keep my brain going.
yeah,
And it's always the chefs, it's always like, well, in 3 minutes, we got to have these 10 dishes ready. So you got to coordinate with 5 other chefs that all these dishes go out at the same time. It's always like 30 seconds this, 1 minute that, 5 minutes that, nonstop.
That's a high stress environment. I'm surprised you're still alive. So okay, so you dropped the weight, you came back, but I'd like to go back to 1994, and I'd like to talk about your father-in-law's heart attack because from what I understand, that was really a changing it was a really big moment for you.
Yeah, to me, it was maybe the one thing that changed me personally more than anything else, and there anything else I will do. Because so at the time in 1994, my now wife was my girlfriend. Okay, we had been together for 1 year. San Francisco. I mean, it was just paradise. Okay,
Yeah.
I
Mm.
I was still at Wolfgang Puck, super high cuisine. The kitchen, the restaurant world was pumping. The internet was pumping. Right. So we got to
Yeah.
go back to that era.
Cheers and all. Yep.
My father-in-law had been an engineer like yourself,
Mm.
and he still is. And so he was same stress world. Okay,
Yeah.
he had worked in Africa, in London, all over Europe. He had worked with power plants, opened his own business, super successful, gives lectures for engineers. One time he visited us in San Francisco and he gave a speech for I don't know how many hundred engineers on the latest of whatever technology was at the time to
Mm.
make power plants more efficient. That was his specialty somehow, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And so anyhow, so wonderful life, everything goes great. Bam,
Man,
heart attack.
I know that feeling quite well. I didn't have a heart attack, but yes, engineering is not good for your health.
Okay.
And so I imagine, he survived, but then how did you get involved?
So because I was always interested, even early on, till I got from Bingen, I also kept reading about health food at all times. So there was Dr. John McDougall, very famous in Australia or in America.
Mm.
And so I bought these books, and I also bought Dr. Dean Ornish by coincidence in, I think, 1993 or something. And I saw Dr. Dean Ornish give a speech in San Francisco.
Right.
Live, there was maybe 8 people in a dark room. It was really strange. I thought it was this famous doctor or something. We walked in, and you have this big room and like 8, 10 people sitting there, and you just knew each one of them was a hard candidate. You know,
Yeah.
they were. uh, And so anyhow, so then a year later, my then uh, girlfriend's dad has this heart attack, and it's just devastating for the whole family, right? Because you have all of a sudden all these worries, right? You have full blast, the money is good, life is great, and he comes to screeching halt. And what happened to him is his friend, good friend of his, had a triple bypass surgery not too long before that. Okay. So he got cut open, his friend, okay? He got cut open, and the machines, the bypass surgeries were so bad back then that his friend had like a brain damage from the bypass surgery,
Oh,
right? So when John woke up, so he actually died, they had to revive him, right? And when John then woke up and sort of came back his function, he was like, well, I don't want to get cut open. I don't want to do that because his friend was really worried about getting brain damage as his friend.
yeah. Yeah.
The
Yeah.
machines are much better now. Nobody should worry about it. Okay. So anybody don't take this as advice not to do it. Just take it for what it is. This is just a story as it is, please.
Yeah.
But he opted to not do the bypass surgery. His arteries are clogged 80, 80, and 70.
Mm.
So the doctor gave him 2 weeks to live. He went to the Cleveland Clinic, which even today is possibly worldwide recognized as the best heart
Best,
health.
yeah.
And back then, my father-in-law, John McKillop, did not know that Dr. Cardwell Esselstyn had done the same diet and Dr. Dinonish and lifestyle. Okay. So, but anyhow, the key factor is he goes to the Cleveland Clinic, and he asked them what they thought of the Dr. Dean Ornish diet. He had read at that stage now, he's reading the book as he's recovering with his wife. They're reading the Dr. Dean Ornish book. They're going through the various lifestyle changes they recommended. So, there's no stress. There is confirm your relationships. There is diet. Diet is maybe the cornerstone of it. But this is a whole program. Okay, this is not just one simple aspect of it. But anyhow, so he went to the Cleveland Clinic then after he read the book, and he asked the specialist there for his specific needs, for his specific clogging of his arteries. Can and should I do this diet? Is it safe enough to do?
Because it was reasonably new back then, the Dean Ornish diet.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the doctors there, the cardiologists, okay, they said, you can try it. Nothing bad is going to come of it. Right? Because he explained to them, well, I don't want to do the operation. I want to just give this a try with this diet and stress management and everything.
Hmm.
And the doctor there said, cardiologists, right? I mean, there's like a whole team there. And they said, well, give it a try if you like. Nothing bad is going to come of it. And so they didn't push him one way or another. They just sort of gave him the option to start it. And so they did. So they went home. And Dorothy, his wife, loves to tell the story that. So what you read in the book is you have to eat fat free, okay? And so So what she did is she comes to the house with him, right, with John, and they're going in the kitchen and like, well, what do we have fat free, right? So they look through and there's like fat everywhere, right? Every cookie has it, every. So what she finds is rice and a can of pineapples. So they ended up eating rice and pineapples, and this is how the journey of John McKillop starts. The very first meal. The very first meal. Now we have thousands of recipes, but in 1994 you had nothing, you know? So
So,
anyhow, yeah, and then from there, you know, the book luckily actually has then the recipes. So it starts off with a chili.
mm,
She luckily found the Dean Ornish chili recipe. Dean Ornish had brought out a book that also included Wolfgang Puck's recipes.
right.
He made, yeah, and he made specific recipes just fat free for Dean Ornish.
Well,
And so when you follow that key there, right? When I was cooking for Wolfgang Puck was writing recipes for Dr. Dean Ornish.
mm,
So it's not new
so
what
that,
I'm doing now that I'm writing recipes for doctors or neuroscientists, which we're doing right now, the Brain Forum that is in February 26th,
mm,
25, 6, 7. Dr. Laurie Marbes, we're having a Brain
marvelous.
Forum, you know. But anyhow, I'm invited to do recipes for these doctors. I've done a lot of work for doctors that I just give recipes to. Okay. They're
Yeah,
telling me what
you've
to
got a
cook,
couple of
and I
those down. You've got a couple of those down there. Do you want to show us one or two of those?
yeah, so here, for example, is Eat to Live. This is Dr. Joel Furman. And this is a very well, so this book has sold, I don't know, it's translated into 30 countries. It's sold over 3 million books. It's very well known all the world over. And he does actually slightly different. He does most nutrients per calorie cooking. That's his method. I got
Right.
to know him later on in my restaurant in Pyramid Bistro. We're jumping a little bit ahead right now.
Mm,
But anyhow, so then he came to my restaurant. We found it really good over healthy cuisine. And then he asked me to get recipes for him. And so I have recipes in his book, which I'm very, very proud of. I have also recipes in Prevent and Reverse Heart Disease, the cookbook. And this one I may be most proud of because this is Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn, the pioneer of health cuisine as far as, like, he worked at the Cleveland Clinic and he does the same diet than Dr. Dean Ornish recommends.
mm,
The main difference, though, is Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn does it without a big lifestyle program. He just simply says, well, eat really healthy, eat everything fresh, don't overdo it, don't eat any unnatural food. Sugar is unnatural, okay?
yeah, yeah.
White flour is not really a nature product, okay? This is, and so is oil. Oil doesn't grow on trees. Olives grow on trees, not oil.
Yeah, yeah, right. Well, I love
So
olives
anyhow,
too.
so I have a recipe there. And so we can go then back to the recipes. But so anyhow, so I got sort of inspired with this thought of like, hey, Martin, if Wolfgang Puck allows a doctor to guide him to a recipe, maybe you can do that too.
Mm,
And this was sort of a click moment, aha moment, where I'm like, well, if I get my chance in an opportunity in life to work with doctors and allow them to actually, because here's the thing that nobody knows, right? You have in the health world, you have so many gurus, or I could be considered a guru, if you will, right? And everybody gives advice, left, right, this, that. But only doctors see the blood work.
Mm.
And that's the key difference. Okay. So you maybe can guess, we can do something. I mean, you have your own experiences and success in your approach. But the way I look at it is I can self experiment. I've lowered my cholesterol way down. I'm at a total of 170, under 170, right? So I'm 168 and whatnot. And that's coming from way high. Okay. And we can tell people, oh, I lowered my cholesterol. This is how you do it. It's like, well, okay, that's sweet. That's cute. But doctors I've worked with have the blood work of 2,000 people,
That's right.
right? So we don't want to look at this silly game of like, oh, I know how to do it because I'm Martin Oswald. I know how to lower cholesterol. No, you got to take into account all these other inflammatory markers and this whole
And
spectrum
so,
of.
so for you then, going on that train of thought, what was a common theme or a common thread that you saw through the work with all those doctors in terms of how you could impact or add your flavor, not so much flavor, pardon the pun, but your style of cooking and impact people's lives for better?
So,
What did you get from them?
well, I think this is the key factor. In 2010, it's a very good question. In 2010, I opened my own restaurant and I changed my own diet because I had the diabetes, to go back to the earlier conversation. Okay.
Mhm.
So it
Yep.
first was at that stage, I knew already the diet works because John McKillop, my father in law, had survived the first crucial years of his heart disease. Right. At that stage, I knew for sure this thing works. Okay.
And it wasn't on pineapples and rice.
It started. So we're going to go into detail on the things he has been eating. But the thing was for me, I changed then. I opened my own restaurant, health food restaurant, and then I became this guru. That's where I became a health guru, if you will. I kept telling people, "Hey, this works." My father-in-law did it. I lost my weight. I've better blood work. This thing works, right? And it's interesting when you have a restaurant, you talk to hundreds of people, like thousands really, right? People start coming by then, they sort of like, yeah, I've read the books, this really worked, this is great. I got to know so many people with heart disease, you won't believe it, right? Because they open up to me, because they read about me in the newspapers, they had seen me in the books, okay? They were
Yeah.
driving 3 hours. But anyhow, so what was missing was hard proof that this thing works for me personally.
Yeah.
Okay. I've cooked now years and years in my restaurants. Answer your question. But it didn't have the direct connection. So anyhow, so we got together with 3 doctors in Colorado.
Mhm.
Because I didn't want to just be talking about health. I want the blood work myself. I want to see this thing, right?
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
what we came up with is Dr. Greg Feinsinger,
Mhm.
Dr. Laurie Barbis, and Dr. Chris Miller. And 2 of them you can find on Substack, by the way. And so
Mhm.
we got together and we said, okay, we're going to do a group of people with heart disease, and we're going to cook for them for 30 days. We're going to try the Dean Ornish cardiac assistant approach. How much can we lower LDL cholesterol? That's the question,
Mhm.
right? In 30 days, how much can you drop it? We had a couple different groups. We first, Dr. Greg Feinsinger had a group of 30. Then I did another one with Dr. Laurie Marbis. And the results are always the same, right? So over 80% of the people, you can drop cholesterol very, very, very good with diet approach and just like a stress-free environment, if you will, too, right? So we want to sleep right and want to have stress-free, want to eat anti-inflammatory, of course, right? But just the idea of eating a doctor cardiolacin diet We had one person drop it by 27.7% from 280 to 200. Okay. Dr. Greg Feinsinger, I have the numbers still here. He sent me all the numbers.
Mm.
Dr. Greg Feinsinger works with people after heart attack already or with severe arteriosclerosis. And even there, so they take medication and they eat a diet. With medication, they got the cholesterol down so much, but then with diet and medication, they got it down an additional 20%. So it's people should just read it themselves, read the books themselves. I'm not here to sell anything, but just go see the Forks Over Knives movies with Dr. T. Colin Campbell. That's another very, very good one. They're all featured there. It tells you in detail. There's no big money making, right? These doctors don't make money. They're old enough. They're in their 90s themselves now, by the way, right?
Mm.
Dr. Esselstyn and Buddy is 92 now. Yeah.
Mm.
And they have already the proof with their own lifestyle and how they lead, but they're not out there to just rip everybody off with some potions.
No, that's right.
Like everybody else tries to make their money. I'm more happy for people to make money, by the way, right? If anything, I wish Dr. Esselstyn was a billionaire because then all the other doctors would jump on it, right?
Yeah.
But anyhow, so this is sort of my experience. I know we chopped a little bit back and forth
No, that's
there
right. Yeah, that's good.
from my 94 to, yeah.
Yep. So, but it's not about timelines. It's more about understanding, the essence of where you've come from, why you were engaged in doing this, and the sort of results that you were getting. So, from say that 30-day test and others that you've seen and worked with since then, how do people stick? I'm not talking about diets. Diets are a fallacy in most cases, but I'm talking about how do people stick to a certain nutrition. What's the easiest way that you've seen from the people that you've worked with and the people that you've fed for them to stick to a certain food pathway?
Well, I think for us, the key is to remember to read some of these books. Okay.
Yeah.
I cannot stress it enough because for anybody who has heavy atherosclerosis or anything, I think reading into it and really informing yourself deeply from people who don't make money out of it.
Mm.
Okay. I don't know if you follow Atya, the health guru who just recently, it's one of the most successful books. And yeah, there's all these different methods out there and everybody tries to make money, 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 money. But if you
Mm.
look back at these guys, they're not just in there for making money to enrich themselves.
No.
They want to pass that on, right? They're desperately trying to hey, look, you can do it for free. Esselstyn has actually talked, like my mother-in-law called him up many years ago when they had the little relapse, if you will, right? Uh, and, and Esselstyn went on the phone for free and talked to him for almost an hour.
Yeah, right.
And they're explaining exactly what it is. And he told them, well, you got to be a little bit more strict, right? He had changed his diet a little bit. He tried to wean himself off the medication. So you have to take medication for it. You follow exactly what the doctor says. I mean, this is not just, oh, I eat cabbage and I'm good. Okay.
No, it's all the complete approach. I mean, functional health, the way I see it anyway, is that all the professionals are in the mix, and you've got to work with them all together. You try and get them all to communicate. Sometimes it's a bit hard, especially with modern medicine, Western medicine. They typically don't want to hear about other strategies, but ultimately, I've got my cardio. In fact, I've got my annual cardiological checkup tomorrow, which I'll ride my bicycle to. But yeah, you've got to have your medical professionals. I've got a Chinese medicine doctor. You've got a nutritionist, herbalist. They're all in there. All the different ists and isms and things are all in amongst the mix. Spiritualism, spirituality, exercise, do 100 push-ups a day. In between meetings or things, I'll drop down and do 25 push-ups. I've got a treadmill sitting here under my desk that
Nice.
when I'm doing Zoom meetings, I'll just sit there going like this, and I turn the camera off because people go, "Paul, stop bobbing up and down, will you?" so, it all comes in. It's all part of it, and you're absolutely right. You've got to stick to the medicine. You've got to stick to the treatments, and you've got to treat them with respect. And
I,
the one
yeah.
the one thing I've found. I've got a naturopath who is really good, and what she does, she checks all the contraindications and things between not only the drugs, but also the natural remedies and the supplements and so on, and sort of looks at lifestyle and the whole works, which is that real functional health approach, and that's the real important thing. Which is why I'm talking to you, because food is the first point of call. Everyone goes in, rubbish out, that sort of thing.
Okay. Yeah,
So
but now to bring it back to your point, right, of the question of like, well, how do people stick with the diet, right? I think that's or any diet or any lifestyle change, right?
yeah,
I think you're really nailing it right there. That you're saying like, well, you have to take the entire approach, go with specialists first, talk to the people who know, and read the books because you really need to inform yourself deeply. To me, that's my first thing that I go to. If you're not reading any of these books, it's going to be really hard for you to comprehend that tens of thousands of people have done this successfully. Not,
yeah,
not one, not my
right,
father-in-law, right? Tens of thousands. And if you're not reading into it and you don't establish that connection, right? If you're not reading what Dr. Laurie Marbus, the success she has with her people on cholesterol issues and whatever, it's not about one or the other approach. It's like combining everything, the best of the
yeah,
best. Go to your doctor, the risk managers. Doctors, what we do wrong, I think, is they're not being asked the right question. Doctors are doctors are always being asked, well, I have a problem here, fix me up, right? But that should only be a short time, right? Because it fixes you up and that's it. You get medication for whatever it is. But the real question for your doctor should be, how can I turn 90 years healthy? What do I have to do with my particular health issues so I can stay healthy until 90 and I can avoid cardiovascular disease, I can avoid diabetes? Then the doctor will give you a different answer. But if you're just saying, hey, treat my symptoms, then you get a treatment for the symptoms. Okay, so we just need to change how we ask and communicate to doctors, or that's what I've heard from a lot of people, right? They're like, well, the doctors treat your symptoms only because you ask for symptoms to be treated. Go to your doctor and say, hey, well, my blood work is like this, right? I'm 50 years old. Let's just say you have a little high blood sugar. And then you go to your doctor and say, well, what do I have to do to avoid diabetes for the next 20 years? And they're probably going to look at you really strange because nobody ever asks that question. Then you get the answer you want to have, because then they're going to say, well, maybe you need a correction diet. Maybe you start a little bit earlier to eat like a diabetic, and then you can avoid it, right? If you're having a higher LDL cholesterol, if you're having a cardiovascular risk, and you ask your doctor, what can I do? Is give you a medication, a statin, right?
mm,
But if you ask him, hey, how can I, for the next 30 years, what can I do besides the medication, right? Well, then they're going to say, well, lifestyle change. You got to sleep properly, you got to stress reduction, meditation, you change your diet a little bit, and then you get the advice you actually really would want to have from your personal doctor. Because only a personal doctor knows your heart risk, right? It's never just heart disease, it's inflammation. it's It's blood sugar. There's so much going on. I'm a cook. I don't even know all these things they talk about.
Yeah, that's right. And there is so much going on. I mean, the chances of comorbidity, in other words, having another condition or some precursor to a condition, like you say, pre-diabetes and so on, is likely at our age. I mean, that's just a thing. That's life, And one of the perspectives I've been playing with a lot lately is looking at health span rather than lifespan. You know, and that's where I'm sort of focusing my energy personally, and thinking about it in terms of future books and so on is exactly what you're saying. Looking at that longer term lifespan, but not from a perspective of life, because we have no idea how long they'll be. I mean, one of the guesses you can have pretty accurately is having a look at your parents, see where where they've lived to, and if they've lived around their mid 80s or their mid 90s or whatever, without any changes, you can pretty well say you've got that sort of span in mind. But the quality of health for that time, and yes, you might sure there's lots of talk these days about, escape velocity of humans and all that sort of stuff. Well, that's still going to cost a lot of money, and most of us won't be able to afford those sort of things. So for me, it's about trying to maximize that health all the way. I mean, my heart disease, for instance, when I was first diagnosed, according to the Australian government's heart health check, my heart age when I was first diagnosed 2 years ago was 83. And now it's actually my chronological age. So I'm 58, and that's where it is right now. So, in 2 years, I've regressed 20 years, which is fantastic.
Keep going. Get younger every year.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe I could do that movie where the guy ends up being young, back when he was born or something. So, but yeah. So, so, going back to the conversation, what? So, you started getting into recipes. What sort of recipes and things did you start developing, and how did you, like that 30-day test and stuff? What sort of learnings did you get along the way that really refined what you were cooking, and what you were putting forward as recipes with these doctors?
So, yeah, I think the key differentiation we have to make is that now I'm cooking for severely people with severe cardiovascular disease.
Yeah,
Okay, I'm cooking
yeah.
for people with LDL, super high LDL cholesterol, years and years. So the first thing anybody needs to understand, it's not if you have one-time high cholesterol, nobody cares, right? This is now, you go one blood work, that doesn't do any damage to you. It's year after year of heightened LDL cholesterol, right? Every day your artery is getting inflamed. Every day your artery is having heightened LDL cholesterol. Even just a little bit higher is much more dangerous than just one time a high one. Okay,
Mm,
so
mm.
that's key. When I cooked for these people, they either have had heart attack already or something. So we're going to the most. I'm going to the most extreme diet you can possibly eat is what I cooked for them. Okay.
Mm.
Dr. Greg Feinsinger was very close with Dr. Esselstyn diet. We actually had events in his house with Dr. Esselstyn. I cooked a 9-course meal. This is early on when we got to,
Right.
yeah, but I'm a chef, we do that. So anyhow, so in preparation of that, I'm calling on, emailing, whatever, and I'm like, well, Dr. Esselstyn, what can you do a little nut, a little walnut butter here, a little this there? And he's like, well, everybody is eating with us has already had a heart attack or is having heart. So no nuts and no seeds. 2 seeds is what he allowed me as a joke for 9 courses.
Wow. And what were those 2
So
seeds?
yeah. And when you read his book, you know why, right? Because in his book he explains he has the longest living people after heart attacks, by the way. Right. So it's I highly recommend Carville Esselstyn. The one thing people argue back and forth diet and whatever, but if you look statistically, nobody has ever achieved more longevity after heart attack than his clients. And this is key, right? So
Mm.
once you internalize, like, oh, wait a minute, whatever they're doing makes you live longer than any other approach, right? So you're taking the best medication, you compare it to anything. I've heard PhDs, Mario Kratz, for example, is a specialist in this, and he says, yeah, the strange thing about his experiment is how long his patients live. And I think once you understand that, then I, as a cook, don't do what I want to make fancy anymore. I do precisely what he says. 2 seeds of sesame seeds we had in that case, and that was as a joke for everybody to understand the difference. So, what do you do? No seeds, no nuts, no oil, no butter, no sour cream. But how can the chef cook that way, right? It's impossible. so, so, so
So how do you
I
keep
was, of
flavour on the
course,
table?
huh?
How do you keep flavour on the table then if you don't have all these different things?
So the first trick is, of course, you use purees. I had already, like, from my parents-in-law, I knew already a lot of recipes from the Dean Ornish type. By the time I cooked for Esselstyn then and Dr. Greg Feinsinger, now we're having the wider prep, the wider mix. We're pureeing all the sauces you use. Your soup becomes your sauce now. Everything you can puree, anything. So this could be a carrot, a simple carrot. You make carrot soup, if you will, with ginger. And that's now your sauce.
Mm.
Okay. But you can,
We've actually shared one of your sessions, your cooking sessions with Laurie, where you've got the big vat sitting there on the side of the water, and you're doing some chopping, and she's talking away, and then you're throwing all the extra bits into the pot to make your sauce, I suppose, in the future. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Right. So nothing gets thrown out. Everything goes in a pot and you cook that up besides, like, bitter stuff, right? So not onion peels, but you want to recycle everything and make your own veggie stock as much as you can, right? So you're still going to
Yeah.
have to supplement. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But the key to success for cooking this way is to create flavors. You definitely need a very strong veggie stock because otherwise it's getting really, really bland. You
Mm.
have to watch the sodium for these patients. They have had stroke already or not, right? They don't need any sodium. So no sodium and no oil. That's harsh. I can tell you that much. How do you
Yeah.
overcome it? With vinegar. So you're using pomegranate glaze, you're using balsamic glazes, you're using infused vinegars for your turmeric, ginger, lemongrass, and you're infusing that with vinegar now, and you get vinegar flavor. When you eat sodium, put it in your tongue, it stings. Vinegar does the same. Okay. What else can it do? Fermented foods, right? You have to read how much sodium is in there. But miso has been found out it would be a great tool because you can, with miso, for example, make a lot of fermented foods. Like a tablespoon, you can make the bacteria in the miso. You can jump over into another product, lentils, for example. And then you get that fermented funky flavor. So you're actually masking that lack of sodium. Sodium is a huge thing. You have a whole class of
Mm.
that from last time. Lots of herbs, lots of spices, fermented foods, umami from mushrooms. So you really have to load it up and load it up and load it up, layers and layers of flavors with the umami, with the fermented foods, with the vinegar, with the acidity, with spices. Spices is your new role, right? If you're
Yeah.
enjoying any kind of spice, start with what you like. Maybe you like Cajun spice, just Google it and make your own Cajun spice portfolio. Our food tastes very good because I use a ton of spice. I always finish it with a ton of herbs and I layer the umami underneath. And that always comes from basically shiitake, porcini mushroom, any mushroom will do.
Yeah.
Uh, fermented foods, right? So it's layers and layers and layers of foods. What happens is your palate, I don't know if you know this, but your palate, your taste receptors change within 14 days. They die off. Okay. So, and they regenerate. So
Yeah.
if you eat 14 days sodium free, oil free, after 14 days, all of a sudden everything tastes terribly salty and just totally greasy, and your palate is all
Yeah.
red.
I
That's
cannot eat red
because,
meat these days.
yeah, right. So I think so. That's another key that people need to understand. If you want to change the diet and actually stick to it, you have to give this 2 3 weeks because we are so abused. Our taste buds have been so abused. Years and years of too much sodium, way too much fat, all these products that actually now we have to have more and more. Salt used to be something a little bit in meats or something. Now you put it in the caramel ice cream, everybody.
Really?
Yeah, sodium is everywhere. Every recipe of dessert has sodium in it, right? There's no cake you're gonna eat without salt, for example, right?
Wow.
There's no cookie you're gonna eat without cheap oil. There is no, or I mean, you'd have to look for it, right? And then uh, the other problem with that whole cycle loop is that you have the oil that high rush you're getting from high caloric foods. You
Mm.
have to have a couple hours later again that dopamine push you get from it, right? And you cannot get out from losing your weight if you then change your palate just a little bit. You can run and run and run and run, eventually too hard to run, and then you have to work with your diet a little bit, right? And
Mm.
so after heart disease, what people approach is a comprehensive look, to come back to your question from 15 minutes ago.
It's all right.
How do people stay with the diet? How do you make the change? Read the books, go to your doctor, ask him, how can I stay healthy? So internalize the mechanics and the science behind it for us. This is the key. Then know that within 2 weeks, your taste palates will change. So you have to be patient. We have a bridge. Okay. You do not have to eat sodium free for the rest of your life. You don't have to eat oil free for the rest of your life. You just have to first make a correction diet to where you really like come back to baseline. Eat as people have 10,000 years ago, right? Eat without all these finished products we're having, without all these high flour products, with all these high glycemic loaded foods. You have to get rid of this, right? These doctors say, hey, you know what, clean out your pantry for us. Get rid of everything. Give it to the neighbor you don't like. And after that, because it's like a smoker, right? So the way they're doing it, they're treating like alcoholic. For alcoholic, you have a problem. You have problem solving with a 12-step approach. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so when you look at Dr. Joel Furman, he has a retreat for people with severe conditions in
Yeah.
San Diego. What does he do for 30 days? He don't get any of the processed foods at all, right? So for 30 days, he loads you up with grains and veggies, all natural foods, okay? In his diet, he allows a little bit meats and fish, but now not so much anymore because of the microplastics, mercury, and all this other stuff. So he is like, well, if you're having to correct somebody's diet after heart disease, after like diabetes already, after severe issues with weight, you
Mm.
have to be a little strong. It's not good enough to eat like people that like in the blue zone. Blue zone is great. If you live in the blue zone and you have eaten like the blue zones, right?
Yeah.
These
Yeah.
are
Yep.
people
Yep.
that Columbus
Yep.
that keep eating. This is great, right? If you have always had sunshine, like you do in Australia, perfect. Perfect. In the blue zone, they never wear suntan lotion. They're always out in the sun. They never wear sunglasses. There's so many steps to it. If that's your lifestyle, perfect. But If you had already heart attack, is the blue zone the best option you have? Not at all. I mean, there's so much better. And we can go to that next, what the better option.
Okay, let's go to the better options.
Okay. Okay. I
Are there
know
better
that's a
options?
little back and forth. I'm sorry for the listeners. I hope you can
No,
follow me and it's
no,
somehow,
no, this is
so this
lovely.
story
Keep going.
started with my father-in-law and why and how you stick with the diet, right? And now we're talking, I guess, about the diet itself, right?
Hmm,
That's the next step, right?
yeah,
Uh, what I do recommend for people to read. Oh, here's another one. Wow, this is hard to see. The China study. Okay, I really recommend for the China study. Look at all the markings I have.
that's it. And what's the crux of that one?
So this is fascinating. This is, by the way, maybe Forks Over Knives. You can check that out. In the movie, it shows it. Dr. D. Colin Campbell in the 70s went to China with a whole team of doctors and researchers. And that's because one of the Chinese ministers was dying of cancer and he wanted to know what can you do about cancer. So it's the largest study ever undertaken. It's the Grand Prix of all studies, according to the New York Times.
Right, okay.
What did they do? They researched what do people eat, how do they behave in different regions all over China, and they mapped it. And then lo and behold, in one region you have more cancer, colorectal cancer than, and the other region doesn't have it at all. Much more heart disease here, much less over there. Because China is so big and they eat drastically different according to region. Back in the 70s, at least, a picture emerged, right, where he said, well, he could identify clearly. Wow, here you have 3 times, 10 times the heart attacks and cancer, and what connects the dots? And they came up with a product called that I think will be shocking to most listeners.
Mm, mm,
It's in essence, it's the same approach. You want to stay away from unnatural products, right? Flour products, stay from
yeah.
grain.
A nutritionist friend of mine, he suggests that if you can't read the label on the food, like if you don't understand what the word is, or you can't recognize, plums. Okay, they're plums. Things like that. And if it's got a number to it, count it out. Don't have it in, which makes a lot of
Absolutely.
sense.
Yeah. No, that's what is it? Michael Pollan who said eat less and mostly veggies, and I mean it's like a great philosophy in itself, right?
Mm.
But the thing is, what these doctors are after is they are dealing with people again with severe conditions, and
Mm.
everybody can learn from that, right? So even if you
Yeah,
want
that's
to
right.
just look at longevity, the first cornerstone of longevity should always be heart disease prevention, because most people die of what?
Heart disease.
Heart disease, right? So let's go dive into the diet. Here we have how not to die.
Yep, good
This,
book. I've read that one.
this is Dr. Michael Gregg. I've had him in the restaurant. I cooked a 6-course meal based on his science.
Right.
So what I was doing is he came to my restaurant in Aspen, Colorado, Pyramid Bistro, and I cherry picked the best of his studies. There's one with Brazil nuts. And he said it's the craziest finding I'd ever had. 5 points cholesterol drop with 2 Brazil nuts. Craziest finding I'd ever seen in his entire life. That was my first start. I did a Brazil nut on a spoon with a little Brazil nut cream. And as soon as I gave it to him, it was like, wow. He couldn't believe I read the book, right? Yeah. And then in addition, every course was like how to prevent heart disease and how not to die of cancer and everything else. And then each of the ingredients was listed next to the study on the menu.
Wow. Was
And
this
there
you did
has
this?
like 60 doctors. Say,
So this was a bunch of doctors at the restaurant, was it, at the time?
professors, doctors in Aspen, Colorado. They all came to see him. I thought they
Right.
came for me, but okay. So, so what happened was then they were blown away because I put together a menu, science-based menu,
Right.
right?
Wow.
And when you read this book, what the beauty of the book is, you can always look back to the original study, right?
Yeah.
And you can click in, and the beauty of the book is when you follow it closely, he always says 30 people ate this for 6 weeks. Here's who financed it. He's very precise and very guarded on not overstating the benefits. And I think that's something good for the audience to understand.
Mm.
Most books will just randomly make a claim, well, eat this way and you're going to live forever. But this is not what he does. He's like, well, read it yourself. You be the judge if this works for you. There's a famous one with turmeric, for example. Turmeric is always held up like, oh, you do everything with turmeric. Turmeric is very, very good for you.
Mm.
But with pancreatic cancer, they only did a study with 18 people. One person managed to overcome it. And so this is as good as the best medication really for pancreatic
Mm-hmm.
cancer.
Mm-hmm.
But he basically says, you be the judge if that's good enough for you or not, okay?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because turmeric is not getting absorbed in the bloodstream, right? It's mostly just going through our system because the body fights back. Turmeric is too strong for it, right? So this is
Yeah.
why it doesn't get all absorbed. But anyhow, you can read it all in here. I can't explain it as good. So please, just
Mm.
read it there. But anyhow, see, he has a new book. Oh, I don't have it here. I have it in German. That has the maximize your LDL cholesterol. What are the best of the best studies we have right now with lower cholesterol by more than 10% proved in studies? Not just anything, right? So here we're dealing like detail. Go on
Mm.
his site, check out Dr. Mike Greger's book. I have a German book. It's floating around somewhere. I'm sorry, I don't have it. But it's easy to look at a book. What are the ingredients? Do you know?
From his book or from me for
Yeah.
heart disease?
But no,
Well,
no,
so
for this one, I'm
avocado,
sorry. Or yeah, go ahead and
no avocado. Avocado is a
no,
good one. No.
he doesn't recommend avocado. I'm sorry. I'm just, yeah.
Oh, okay. Um, his book specifically, I don't recall
Yeah. No,
in
no.
terms
Okay.
of
So
ingredient.
sorry. So his book, right? Because we all read various doctors and scientific work and so on. So his latest book that just came out, okay, on specifically heart disease, he recommends the oat, which we know oat has been long recognized because of the beta glucan. Okay,
Oat,
so
as in
that's
the porridge style oats
yeah.
that you have in the morning.
Well, there's different oats, right? So the
Yeah,
fine
yeah.
cut is not as good, but beta glucan is really the key component of it. That thing that makes it gelatinous, and that
Yep.
goes into your system and pulls out cholesterol through a process that I don't want to just explain right now, and I don't want to
No,
do
no,
it wrong either.
no.
But that is very well recognized worldwide as partly, and the functioning aspect there is beta glucan. The
Mm.
other thing that works there is barley. Barley has more beta glucan than oats.
So, but my wife's Palestinian by heritage, and what they call it burgle, I think we have. Is that the same thing? Is it?
You're Australian. I don't know what you do in Australia.
No, in the Middle East. So that the Mediterranean food there is beautiful. Yeah.
So barley has been eaten in Italy all through Middle Europe. You have to watch for barley where some of it is peeled too much and it doesn't help. You want to watch for the one that has the most beta glucan in America. You can order it. They grow varieties now that have much, much more than oat. Like, I don't know, is it 3/4 or something? So
Yeah.
definitely include this in it. If you look at my website, you can see barley, barley, barley. Why? Because this is the cornerstone for longevity, right? Even if you're just having it, I always say to people, look, if you're 50 years old and you had already any kind of condition, you have diabetes, you have this, that, this is a good start, right? What else can you do? Okra. Okra has
Yes.
the same thing, viscosity again, right? If you don't, most people don't like okra, they eat it deep fried, okay? Okra has the ingredient that pulls out LDL cholesterol, right? So okra, if you do like to eat it, I recommend you eat it in small quantities, try it out in like little stir fries, cook yourself, whatever little risotto, and then add a little okra into it. Don't heat it too much. Just warm it through, like sear it hot if you can, and then include okra in your diet. What's another ingredient? Black soybeans. Black soybeans. Okay. So they come fermented, for example. I'm not sure if the fermented variety is good. Check out in your health food store, black soybeans, Google it. Dr. Michael Greger talks highly of them, and there is studies to back it up, right? It's not what he says, it's the studies he actually
Yeah.
showcases. There are barberries, barberries.
No, what's a
So
barberry?
barberry. I don't know. It's like any other berry, right? It's all
We have
berry, the
blueberries, the little round blue ones.
little red ones.
No,
Instead
we
of
don't have
fire.
those. Yeah. Okay.
And you can see it all over my recipes. Instead of rosemary, raisins, I use barberries. I use it for my breakfast. I'm microdosing cholesterol lowering food. That's what I'm doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Every meal has either like a little barberry in there. It has, I have a black soybeans in there. I do a little okra in there. And because I'm still always struggling with it, once you have too much weight, you want to sort of like be proactive. And these are the most proactive ingredients that we currently know.
Yeah. Okay. So I have psyllium husks on my breakfast over an almond. Not well. It's not bread. It's called almond road. It's like a mixture of crushed nuts and things. I must have 2 or 3 Brazil nuts every day. It's just something I read somewhere that said Brazil nuts are great for heart disease. So,
So they could have too much selenium.
sorry.
So Brazil nuts, you should not have more. Maximum is 2 a month, and 4 at the most is actually what
Oh,
Spanish doctors say. 4
oh,
nuts, not more than 4.
wow. Okay. Well, better back off on those then.
Yeah, no, please read the study. It's actually
Yeah.
it's proven the selenium in there is really strong. So check it out.
I will. Um, so yeah, it's really diet is really the cornerstone, like you say. You're absolutely right there.
So where else can you go with it? Then you go to garbanzo beans. So out of all the beans you have, the garbanzo beans, when you have the skin on, there's proof in studies to lower more cholesterol than other beans. Right? All beans are great for you because they help your microbiome, right, which always impacts everything else, blood sugar stability. So now we're going down this whole road of these are sort of the ingredients for lowering LDL, but that's not enough. What you really have to do is eating anti-inflammatory foods
Mm,
and foods that help your endothelial lining. So Dr. Esselstyn, all these doctors recommend the first thing is eat salads. Okay. Why?
yeah.
Because it helps the endothelial lining more than anything else. It oxygenizes your arteries. They can pump. They can be flexible. And the key is the higher nitrate foods you have, the better. Arugula is better than all the other stuff. It's spicy. Can eat too much of it. Red beets, the greens of the beets is fantastic for a kale, for example. Okay, these are sort of the king and queen of the health as far as your endothelium health good.
Mm-hmm.
So now we're looking. So if you're just eating oats, you're missing the point entirely. you got you gotta you gotta eat the cholesterol lowering foods, and you gotta microdose with salads. Not a little salad, but a big salad.
Big one.
Okay?
Yeah.
So when Dr. Lauren Marvis told me stories, and please you should interview her sometime yourself.
Yeah.
But
I will.
we had some severe, sick people coming in, severely overweight and everything. The first thing they do is really give you the salad, like get your oxygen going and everything. And obviously doctors can describe it better than a cook like me. But
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Furman does the same, right? It's like, hey, just eat your salad, don't put oil on there. Right? If you are having weight issues and you're eating olive oil and you're pouring it on, every second is about 120 calories, right? If
Yeah.
you're right, so if you're watching TV and you're seeing the chefs like 1, 2, oh, put some more olive in there, right? Count the seconds if it's an open bottle. Count the seconds, and every second is 120 calories, a tablespoon. You can't lose weight. It's not possible. If you can lose weight, you cannot reverse cardiovascular disease. It doesn't work together, okay?
Yeah.
And the reason why that is very simple, because our bodies can function protein over into fat deposits. You can get carbohydrate into fat deposits, and fat can be stored as fat deposits. If you have too much calories, you're going to get fat deposit. Doesn't matter where it comes from. It's irrelevant, right?
Mm.
You may burn off the protein, but all the other stuff that's coming in is going to get deposited as fat deposit, right? There's no escaping if you're eating too much calories, especially from too much oils. Now we said, look, guys, it's So Dr. Foreman says from the lip to the hip, from the lip straight to the hip with the olive oil, okay, or with any oils, right? So if you're having weight issues and you're consuming 3, 5, 600 calories from oil, what else you gonna eat? That's a problem, right? So
Yeah.
it's really, I lost weight myself. How did I do it? Well, I did all this approach that you're hearing here, right? So
Mm.
again, it's not just about lowering cholesterol with oatmeal. It is a comprehensive plan with tons of grains to protect your endothelial lining, make your arteries pump. It's not me as cook saying this. You can read all these books, all
Mm.
this stacks
Yeah.
of books I have. Then we got to go a step further. My father-in-law really did it with beans. Okay, I mentioned that before, but he had the chili beans. This is the key to your microbiome, but also for the soluble and unsoluble fiber, right? So if you really read into studies on fiber, you're going to see there's this whole plethora of fiber. You're going to come across pectins. Where is pectin? Lemon is the best. Apple, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Don't peel your apple. No. Buy it organic. Buy an organic apple. That's where you spend your money. Okay, it's worth it. Eat it. The first key is you chew it slow with the pectin, which is in the skin, and all the nutrition is outside in the skin always, right? It's not the fruit inside. Most people peel it and throw away the good stuff. What we want
Right.
to have is we want to eat 2 apples in this case in different forms. So on the one side, I have an whole apple a day. Okay, if you want to lower my cholesterol, cardiovascular risk. And then on the other side, you can do something like Dr. Larry Marcus again, where you make a puree with an apple mousse. So you take it with the skin, you cook it a little bit, and then she has a super killer recipe. You put cinnamon in it or any kind of spice, a
Oh,
cardamom,
yeah.
anything like that. Cinnamon helps you a little bit with your blood sugar. Then you have a little water in there, make it thin, okay? Then you add what you mentioned before, the magic trick. The secret ingredient is psyllium husk.
Ah, good
Why
to know.
do you do it? Because you can microdose it now. If you have a apple mousse that has psyllium husk, you get the fiber from the pectin. You get all these other healthy nutrients, all these other vitamins and vitamin C like phytonutrients from the apple. Dr. Lauren Marviston has amla powders and whatever. I mean, the core is really the psyllium husk. It's an apple puree mousse. It's the cinnamon, some spices. Now you can eat this before your lunch, before your dinner. You can add a little bit in the morning for your oatmeal. Now you're getting the pectin you need. Now you're getting the celluloid um, fiber from the psyllium husk. So I highly, highly recommend something you can eat with every meal. This is
Mm.
now we're going level after level after level. Okay, so you're having the oat in the morning, put a little bit of that apple puree in there. You have the psyllium husk already in there. You have the pectin in there. For lunch, you're having a little pectin from a lemon, the lemon peel. Okay, you eat the zest core.
Mm-hmm.
Again, you eat for snack a little apple with the skin on. Get the organic apple. Okay. Then you're making for lunch a barley risotto for yourself, a barley soup, or at least have a barley bread. Lower the cholesterol, fight the cholesterol every single time, every time you eat. In the afternoon, you have a little snack. You put some barberries in there. Okay. You know, those use any of a bean hummus. Okay. In the
Yeah, I
afternoon.
have hummus all the time because Palestinians love their hummus.
And that I think is key. And so you put the barbaritsen on there and use the functional food items. So I'm going to wash your arteries over and over. Don't forget the greens for lunch, okay? Because the endothelium, we want to support that as well, right? Again, you can read it on the books. I'm not saying as a chef, I'm saying because doctors told me to do it this way. Okay?
Yep.
Cook this way for patients, okay? In the evening, we're going to do the same program. We're using different foods, different ingredients. If it's summertime, make the same with a peach or make it with other fruits. They're not the reason why you didn't hear it so much in the health community is because they haven't been researched, not because they're not healthy for you. A Zwetschgen is plums, for example. Okay, plums are superfoods. Okay,
Yeah,
so
okay.
plum with the skin on, the nice French ones you're getting here. You can do another psyllium husk combination. You can use that as a sweetener, just like dates. Okay. There's not much studies out there, but if
What
you
about
just look
dates?
closely, they're sweet. They have nutrients that nobody can even imagine what it is good for. Then I have one more step for you for anybody listening, which is the polyphenols in your diet.
Mm.
With every meal as much as you can. We need to microdose. It's every meal all the time. You're making a hollandaise. So there's elderflower berry dressing, for example. You can use blueberries if you like. Okay.
Mhm.
But know this, our only berry have 10 times as much polyphenols as the blueberries. They have not
Oh,
been
really?
studied as much. Acai has another approach, right? So I like to mix it up with all the dark berries. Any blackberry, blueberry, anything you can afford. Frozen blueberry may be your cheapest option. Okay, so if it's that, that's fine too. Make yourself a dressing for lunch. Put it in the morning for breakfast, a little drizzle in there, make a little sauce out of it. Eat your polyphenols at nighttime as well. Eat it as a snack, right? So this is a comprehensive approach now where
Mm.
we're hitting layer upon layer upon layer. Next thing you know is you lower cholesterol by 20%, over 20%, up to 27% I've seen if you're not having genetic disadvantage, right? So there's, I think 10% of the population has genetic issues or they're hypercholesterol absorber, that kind of stuff like Dr. Tom A. Spring is talking about. That's why, as I said at the beginning, to go back, right? Always go with the doctor first because you need to
Yes.
know if you have a genetic problem. If you have a genetic problem, everything I told you about will help you, but only very little. Maybe
Yeah.
only 10%. I don't know, right? But if you're only if you're one of the 10% of people who has genetic disadvantages, nobody can fix it with diet go to your doctor, please, please, please. This is the first step you should do.
100%. My next book, actually, one of the focuses in there is actually starting at functional genomics. So that's getting that whole, functional test to look at your genetics, and then you layer on the epigenetics after that, and so on. Dr. Richard Hogan here. Hi, Richard, all the way from Ottawa, Canada. He's asking what happens when a professional's time is very, very compressed. Well, that's always an issue. The biggest problem, and I've discussed this with doctors before. In fact, I had Dr. Keith Holden, who's a prostate cancer specialist in the US, on a couple of months ago. And that's the biggest problem. You only have 15 minutes of time with GPs, and that's why it's important, as we've been talking about earlier, to make sure you're talking to the doctor about your future health choices, your future needs, rather than going for symptoms. What is the advice that you need from a health perspective, rather than just going about the symptom you're currently experiencing. So it's a good question, Richard. I mean, you're the professional. Maybe I need to interview you sometime and have a talk about that, because it is an ongoing issue, and that's why functional health is critically important. That's why we need to have the specialists. We need to have the GP. We need to have people like Martin, who's the food specialist. It takes all of it to be in the mix. It's not just one thing. Meditation, you mentioned meditation earlier. I meditate for an hour every morning. So I sit there cross-legged and just meditate using the principles from the Vipassana approach. So yeah, it's all important, and it's all in the mix there for sure. I hope that answered your question, Richard. It was a bit of a roundabout. What do you think about Richard's question, Martin?
Yeah, I read in America you have 88 minutes as a doctor, physician, an average of 8 minutes per patient, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So for patients, I mean, again, I'm talking here as a cook, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So just to address that particular issue, I've talked to so many doctors about this issue, right? Allot your time, make it count. First, be aware that the doctor has very little time. That's the first thing, that people, squander their precious time away with your doctor, right? That doctor will save your life if you're working with him or her, right? That's the key. Read these books that we have here, and then you are prepared to go to your doctor and ask the right questions, right? If you're not preparing yourself, you squander your chance to get the person that can save your life, to give you proper advice. And the question should be always oriented: first, read your symptoms, right? Hey, what do I have to do we get this and that medication? And always ask long term. What's your experience? Ask your doctor, what's your experience with this, with other patients who have the same problems? What would you recommend for me if I really want to reverse it? Is there option to reverse it, right? What options do I have? Nobody's asking these questions ever, right? Maybe the doctor doesn't even know at the time. It's not about like, you don't know about Dr. Lineage or something. That's not the point, because everybody is so different. You have the blood problems, blood sugar problems, etc. Okay, unstable. You have a little unstable connection. It says, but so anyhow, so your doctor is key to this health things. Read the books, and like I say, you always do it in that following line, but don't just waste all your time with your doctor on symptom treatment, but long-term longevity, long health.
Yeah, see here that we haven't answered Richard's question appropriately. He's a neurologist and neurosurgeon, and that's not answering his question. I tell you one answer I do have for you, Richard, not associated with this conversation because we're talking about food and nutrition, but in answer to your question, I actually interviewed Paddy Wallen a couple of weeks ago, a month ago now, and she actually has a process which I'll be bringing out as a course next month, a short course, and it's called Own Your Health. And what she does there is she gets people to work through their questions and really come to the clear answers that they need from the person they're speaking to.
Well,
And
I'm
then
so sorry to intervene. I'm reading this here too, right? So is the question, is the question actually from a physician's perspective, where because you're so time constrained, or is it from the patient's perspective? I'm not sure with the question here actually, because I'm just reading the same, right, as a
yeah. Richard,
neurologist or
your
neurosurgeon.
response?
That's not answering my question. Well, I don't understand the question then, I'm sorry. But do we have a misunderstanding with the question or?
Both, he says. Okay,
Can
well,
you please pose the question again?
Richard, I'll tell you what to do, because we are running over time here. What I'll get you to do is, if you can go onto my Substack, so that's paulcobbin.com, go onto my Substack, subscribe to my channel, and that will allow you to message me, and then give me a more in-depth rundown on what you're trying to get as the answer. I see you've come up with compressed diets. I'm not familiar with compressed diets. Maybe you can speak to that, Martin. But ultimately, give me a message, Richard. And in the week that I bring out Martin's interview as the focus for the week, I then bring out a newsletter based on this conversation, and I'll do some research and talk to Martin, and we'll answer that question for you then.
And
But compressed
the thing
diets, what
too
are they?
is, for Richard, we have the brain forum going on. I don't think he's invited this time. We have 3 neuroscientists on there. We have 2 doctors. I'm a cook, right? So I cook all the foods based on what they're telling me to cook. That's what's
And I'm
happening on
just a
my side.
patient's advocate, so
But I think that may be very fascinating. It happens February 26, 7, 8. 24 is another one. One after another, really good. These are great questions to ask them because they're in the same field, they're the same specialists. I'm limited to writing recipes and so on, but I think you will find it very interesting. Connect with Dr. Laurie Marbus here from the Habit Healers. I think she can, maybe she's always interested to have doctors like yourself included in these conversations. She has lots of live interviews. I think you will find your answers there. And compressed diets, I do not know what compressed diets are. I've been dealing with how not to diet. I've been dealing with Dr. Dean Ornish's approach, Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn, Dr. Joel Furman, dozens and dozens. In Austria, in America, it's very, very popular. Hundreds and hundreds of doctors follow that same approach. So I do not know compressed diets. I'm not sure what that refers to. I'm so sorry.
So, well, we have actually gone quite a way over time. So, Martin, thanks for standing in the place between medicine and food. But if you were back to your father-in-law's situation before, just when he was diagnosed, and you looked at the food that he was eating or the lifestyle that he was having, or others that you've worked with, or what you've got from these doctors, what's one thing that you would say to somebody who's just been diagnosed with a chronic condition like heart disease from a culinary medicine perspective? What's the one thing you would say to them in terms of the future outlook for them, the future direction they might take to improve their outcome?
Read the books. read Dean Ornish, see Forks Over Knives. And I think don't get the misunderstanding this has to be vegan, right? This is sort of like a thing where people get like, oh, this is vegan or something. It's like, no, no, you can do it also with meats and there's a whole spectrum of things that you can read in Lineage. Okay, there's so many different approaches, but watch works on it. Check these information out for us, inform yourself, then go to the doctor, work with your doctor very, very, very close, your whole risk portfolio. Then you come to a cook like me and you tell me what to do, right? I'm not going to tell you what to eat, but do these things for us and then so make it a multi approach.
And throw in lots of herbs and spices. And stay off the salt.
Stay off the salt.
Well, thank you so much for your time, Martin. It's been an absolute pleasure. We've covered quite a lot in the hour and a half, which has been absolutely lovely. I've taken down copious amount of notes here. I'm going to be refreshing my memory again on some of those books, and I've got to find these barberries. I don't know if there's any Australians on
Meanwhile,
here. Oh,
start
there
with
is actually. There's
blueberries
quite a
and
few of them here.
blackberries, arona berries.
Yeah.
And or dark berries and all this stuff is so, so good. The polyphenols, you get them already in herbs, you get them in spices. Just keep loading up with these foods that help you in your overall health. I think that's the key.
Yeah, and balance in all of this. You've mentioned most of the things that are in my fridge, but it's about having balance, I suppose, across all of them is the important thing, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, Martin, thank you very much. It's been an absolute pleasure, and we'll play this again and you'll see more in the notes and the newsletter in a couple of weeks' time.
Thank
So
you
thank you
for the
for
invitation.
being
I
on.
very much appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you. It was a real pleasure. All right, Martin.
Okay, bye from
Take care.
Austria.
And
Australia.
bye from Australia. Exactly. See you, buddy.
Okay, have a good day. Thank you.
Take care. Thanks.